This episode isn't about cliches or hacks. It's about mental armor. Earned, tested, and real. If you train, lead, or fight battles in any way, internal or external, this episode is for you. Let's go. All right, so let's get into this. I've been wanting to go over a few of these things just to get the conversation going for a while. I'm going to start with a quote drop from Jocko. You will not always be motivated. You must learn to be disciplined. This is a struggle I have constantly, right? But he teaches us discipline equals freedom. I wanted to get into some of that. I've had people say like, man, that seems pretty square, or that seems pretty nerdy, or that seems pretty lame. But it really isn't. And if you work on yourself, your personal discipline in the things that you're trying to achieve, eventually you are rewarded with that freedom. You know, it's just important. So let's look at his morning routine, I guess. Not, just his thing. He wakes up at 4:30 a.m. every day and works out. You've probably seen his. He's got the watch image that he posts, and it's kind of funny to just. When he first started doing that, it was like, what the hell is this guy doing? But then you realize he's doing it every day, and it's like just his way of life, right? So every day, no excuses. Wristwatch photos on social media are proof of his consistency, not ego. Like he didn't just do it once. He does it every day. So the takeaway there is don't wait to feel ready. Train your mind. Train yourself to do it regardless of how you feel. So if that's the thing, get up 4:30 to work out, do that regardless of how you feel, right? Train yourself to do that thing. It doesn't have to be a 4:30 a.m. workout. It's like whatever the thing is. Do the one thing. Simple on paper, but really difficult to execute. So, Jocko, most SEALs train before the sun rises, right? Functional fitness, rucks, run, swimming, body weight, circus, whatever. It's not just about the fitness. It's about building the mental toughness before the world even wakes up. I tell my 5 a.m. class that I coach every day that like, I don't tell them every day, but I'll say it a lot where like, man, you've done more work now than most people are gonna do all day, right? You got up, you got it done. And also, it's not gonna get harder than it just was, right? Physically, at least. It's part of that mental conditioning, mental toughness. So another thing that Jocko or the Navy SEALs teach us, daily gear check, right? They talk about the gear check. It's not just about the gear, it's about personal accountability, right? So uniforms, gear, living spaces, you probably heard the make your bed every day, are checked and kept in order, right? That is part of that mental toughness building. It's part of that meditative over and over thing that you do. So how you do the small things reflect how you'll handle things during chaos, right? How you do anything is how you do everything. I've said that before and people are like, oh, that's bullshit. But it really is the truth. I could tell a lot about you by, do you show up on time? And also, what does your car look like? This is a thing I like to check. I know it seems weird, but there's a correlation here. Like in the gym, particularly in classes, if you are chronically late to class, I can, 9 times out of 10, go check your vehicle and it will be full of trash. 9 times out of 10. Those are two small things, but they echo in everything. I guarantee you. So when you become the type of individual that takes care of those small details, those little things, that when the bigger things have to be handled, you are going to give them the attention they deserve. That's just how that works. Let's look at Miyamoto Musashi. Relentless, known for historical self-imposed discipline. So, swordsmanship through repetition, right? Musashi practiced his techniques thousands, hundreds of thousands of times, often alone, repeating them, called kata, until he transcended the form, eventually creating his own set of form. He once trained using wooden swords against live blades just to sharpen his personal resolve, just to make himself better. He self-imposed isolation. So he'd often remove himself from society so he could focus. Spent years in caves at the end of his life. Famous cave Ryondo, meditating, writing. He wrote Book of Five Rings. At the end of his life in that cave, in his self-imposed isolation, refining his thoughts. He didn't write it for fame. He did it as a final act of discipline, sort of codifying his life lessons that he lived up until the day he died. So, like, Jocko doesn't post his 4:30 a.m. wake up time for likes. He doesn't do it for the likes. He does it to sharpen his edge, to stay sharp. Musashi didn't wait for the perfect moment to write down his legacy. He trained in the mud and the blood, fighting life or death for decades before he ever taught a word. That's discipline over motivation. So he made himself who he was before he went to spread the word. And I see a lot of people that want to teach in class. I will see a new beginner want to help others. And the vibe I get is not because they want to help, because they want to help. They want to help so that they make themselves sort of have higher rank over those beginners, so that they feel better about themselves because they know more than a beginner. Well, I hate to tell you, you should know more than the beginner because you've been doing it for a little while, but that doesn't make you a teacher, right? Doing it for the likes. That's what I call it. I'll say that. Like, don't be helping them. Don't be doing it for the likes. They don't know what I'm talking about. I don't explain myself, but that's what it is. Let's look at voluntary hardship. Comfort kills resilience. So like cold showers, hard workouts, fasting, training through being tired, that kind of stuff. As Goggins would say, it calluses the mind, right? That's what he's talking about. Particularly, let's look at Goggins. Particular brutal Navy SEAL training evolution. He called it, he wrote this in his book, called surf torture. Goggins says he was pushed to the edge of life, basically. The instructors had the class in the freezing surf, right? They were barely able to breathe. When most men were collapsing or quitting, Goggins started yelling, "Who's going to carry the boats?" It's this famous thing. He wasn't talking to anyone else. He was talking to himself. That line was his war cry, was his trigger to push deeper. When his body said no, he said, "Who's going to carry the boats?" He didn't just embrace the pain, he weaponized it. Right? So the whole point here is, don't get it twisted, right? Voluntary hardship isn't about masochism. It's about choosing that struggle on your terms. So when life forces struggle on you, when you don't expect it or when you can't control it, you are prepared and ready, right? Looking at Musashi, he slept on the dirt, man. He slept in the rocks and the dirt. So Miyamoto Musashi lived like a monk crossed with a mercenary, right? He often refused food and shelter and comfort from others, particularly as he got later. And later in life, he lived in a cave. He slept on the ground or in caves, believing comfort would make him weaker. There's several stories that before a duel, he would deliberately arrive late, dirty, hadn't bathed in weeks, disheveled, completely exhausted, to prove that mastery wasn't about appearance or preparation, but it was about preparation and mindset, right? It was about his previous training and how he had forged his mind. So to Musashi, hardship wasn't a punishment. It was his filter for strength, right? So according to Musashi, and Goggins as well, unbreakable mind is forged in discomfort. Luxury dulls the edge. Hardship can sharpen it if you're training it. So, quick challenge this week, pick one thing that really sucks, something that you really hate to do, and do it every day this week. If it's a work out every day this week. If it's eating broccoli, eat broccoli every day this week. If it's calling your mom, call your mom every day this week. Whatever it is, find the one thing that you think sucks and go do it. You cannot improve what you ignore. So, daily reflection and self-awareness, right? Journaling, self-reflection, like an end-of-day recap, helps you to own your actions, reactions, and mindset. Okay? I was taught a really cool 3-question framework. What did I receive? What did I give? What trouble did I cause? And I love that. This is a real quick way to sort of recap your day. What did I receive? What did I give? What trouble did I cause? Like, you can, I preach journaling a lot. I don't do it as much as I should, but I do journal. You don't overcomplicate it, right? Something really minimal, just a notebook, like something. Even if you're not going to go back and look it over, just the act of writing. I'm a Gen Xer, so I like to write things by hand. I know you don't have to. You could put it in your phone or whatever, but it can be audio. I think, but for me, the act of literally writing it really helps. Warriors don't just train the body, they train the mind. And that starts with reflection, not once a year, not when you burn out, but every damn day. Okay? Before you go to sleep, ask yourself, what did I give today? What did I receive? What trouble did I cause? And I guess sometimes the what trouble did I cause for me is actually positive. There's a Japanese method of self-reflection called Nikon. I want to do a whole episode on it, but used by monks and martial artists. It's not about guilt. It's about awareness and ownership, right? Look, the undisciplined mind forgets. It lies. It justifies. But a warrior who reflects daily becomes sharper, calmer, more accountable. If you don't inspect your mind, you'll never upgrade it. And that's what this is all about. Noise is the enemy of clarity, right? So let's look at strategic disconnection, right? So cutting the digital noise, news, bullshit, doom scrolling, comparing yourself on Instagram. So we're talking about digital detoxing, right? Can you go an hour? Can you go a day? Can you go a week? Strategy, life strategy, is born in the quiet, especially for warriors. Beginning of 2024, I spent 7 days in the woods with no phone. It took me probably until day 3 until I stopped trying to check my phone. I would literally be out in the woods and think, I wonder how cold is it right now? And I would look for my phone. They are more pervasive than I think you realize. Social media is more pervasive than I think you realize. I will sometimes try to go most of the day without looking at anything. Now, I will keep my phone for business texts and phone calls, but I'll try not to make any. Just because, sometimes, you got to make money, you got to live. But I will try not to look at, Facebook or Instagram, whatever. I deleted TikTok. And I'm telling myself, I need these things for work. I don't. You cannot sharpen your sword in a hurricane, and yet most people live in a hurricane. A digital hurricane of alerts, opinions, fake urgency, right? Dopamine bait. A warrior will think differently. Will disconnect in order to reconnect with ourselves. So, distraction is the enemy of clarity. Look at any elite performer, right? Military leaders, athletes, artists. They all have time they've carved out to think, to breathe, to listen to their own damn voice instead of whatever the algorithm decides you should listen to. So start simple, man. 1 hour. See if you can make it an hour. Can you turn your phone off for an hour? Can you rationalize to yourself that you can turn your phone off for an hour? Or at least not look at notifications. Can you do 1 day a week? Minimal digital, right? No social, no email, no consumption. Really, no consumption. How about a weekend? No tech except for needed functions like maps, people calling you, maybe using it to journal. A week. 1 weekend. Can you do it? Honestly, ask yourself, can you do it? I bet it's harder than you think it is. On the surface, you'd be like, yeah, no problem. But I challenge you to give it a try. Start with an hour. But don't just use that time to read, to train, to build something, to reflect, right? If your mind is already always plugged into that bullshit, it's never going to reboot, right? And a tired mind makes weak decisions. So, strategic disconnection isn't a luxury. Reframe it. It is prep. It is training. It is battlefield preparation for life. So, the brain needs boredom, man. It's real. Like, the brain needs boredom. Science backs this. Moments of boredom increase creative activity and problem-solving ability. Constant stimulation reduces your capacity to focus. Have you ever seen someone who's been staring at a screen for a couple hours? They're like out of it, you know? Sometimes they're even grumpy. And digital noise equals mental clutter, you know? You don't need to react to every notification. Most of it's junk. Junk input equals junk output. I mean, I just personally experienced that. So create quiet zones for yourself. No phone in bed. No devices at meals. Take a weekly digital Sabbath, right? They're training drills to help you cope with the modern world. And modern, it's not so modern anymore, but they're training drills to help you cope with that goddamn glass slate in your pocket. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that if you are disturbed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. So, like Musashi, who avoided he avoided distractions to master his craft. He went to live in a cave in order to write his final opus. And granted, he didn't have an iPhone to deal with. You cannot forge steel while scrolling. I'm going to put that on a shirt. You can't forge steel while scrolling. So let's look at a challenge here, man. Here's your challenge. So for the next 4 weeks, try a tech-free Sunday. I'll do it with you. Or 1 day a week, whatever it is. I'm just going to pick Sunday. So no social media, no scrolling, no digital junk food. The phone stays in airplane mode. Use it only if necessary, not for entertainment, not for escape, just for the phone calls, right? Instead, replace that time that you're going to find. You're going to find that you have time now. Journal, train, reflect on your week. Be present with your people, right? Spend time with your people. Sit in boredom. And at the end of the day, track your mental clarity in 1 sentence or 3 points. How did you feel? What did you notice? What pulled at you the most? Do that for 4 weeks, 1 day a week for 4 weeks. I guarantee you'll be sharper, calmer, and more grounded. This is how warriors unplug from the world so they can re-enter it with their power. Leave me a comment. Let me know. Let me know how it goes. Let me know how hard the first one was. A final point here. Lone wolves die. Packs survive. Right? Mentors, training partners, accountability groups, whatever it is, your tribe is important to you, right? You need support. You need to find a place that can help support your becoming a warrior, your training, right? So things like modern, like they're not modern, but things like gyms, your dojo, right? That culture can help breed resilience. That pull from other people to make you train every day, whether it be physical, mental, whatever. So create or join a tribe that holds the line, right? Be careful. There's a difference between support and enabling, right? Like, could be found in like bitching, right? Sometimes complaining to those other, fellow warriors can be helpful. It can help set the tone and, kind of make things bearable, whatever. But just be careful that you're not enabling each other, right? Supporting each other, being honest with each other, and driving that culture forward. That's what's important. So we're talking about some habits here, different things that warriors do, naming some names, dropping some drops, but here's some of the things we talked about. So discipline over motivation, right? Discipline equals freedom. Voluntary hardship, callousing the mind. Self-reflection, journaling. Strategic disconnection. Go find a cave and live in it. Find your tribe. That was a quick one, but just makes a lot of sense. So pick one of these. We talked about some challenges. Pick one of them. Do it today and track it and let me know. I don't know if these things are helpful or not. I just enjoyed doing them. It helps me learn about myself. I love writing out my thoughts and sharing it. If you like it, give me a like, give me a subscribe, review it. Even if I sound like a crazy person, let me know. Join our email list, right? We do a monthly email, so join that. And comment with what you're going to tackle. Let me know. Let me know the challenge you're going to take on. And until then, get after it, y'all.